This is still the continuation of what makes a good macro image, which is the first part in a three-part series of how to get a good macro image every single time. And of course, that isn't a prediction but a spoiler. So stick around to the end of this series and you are definitely going to be getting a good macro image every single time. If you are new to the channel, I'm David Joseph at ABCD David, professional macro wildlife photographer based in Nigeria, and I've been having fun doing macro photography for over 5 years now. Thus the experience, the knowledge, and everything I share with you in this channel. So if this sounds like something you like and would love to learn more about, do consider subscribing to the channel. And let's move on to today's video, which is going to be about focus and sharpness. In previous episodes you can find in the channel, we've talked about subject being 25% and lighting being 20% of what makes a good macro image every single time. In today's video we are going to be talking about focus and sharpness, which is going to be 15%, and all three of them added together gives you 60% of what makes a good macro image every single time. It's always important to point that out. So yeah, focus and of course sharpness, because if it's not in focus it can't be sharp, and if it isn't sharp it literally means it's not in focus. I love that line. Macro photography is all about revealing details our eyes naturally wouldn't see, and to achieve this, one of the things we must do is to bring the subject into focus. However, focus is more complicated than just bringing things and revealing them to the naked eye. Proper focus in macro photography involves asking and of course answering the question, what should be in focus? And a lot of times it's the eyes. If the eyes are in focus, or maybe even just one of the eye is in focus, you've done great, because that is what attracts most viewers to an image, or the most thrilling thing about a subject whenever we see one that is very tiny. So what should be in focus? A lot of times it's the eye. But if you try something artistic and it's intentional that you don't want to show the eye, you can always put any other thing in focus. But it's best if it's intentional and of course for a reason. Then aside what should be in focus, there's this question of how much should be in focus, because let's be honest, just like in life, too much of everything is bad. So how much should be in focus? In other genres of photography, this would be easily determined by the aperture used, but in macro photography, because we are often closing up the aperture, well, it becomes very complicated. And of course, the depth of field is very thin in macro photography. So a lot of times we are left to shoot singles or brackets. So how much should be in focus? Can a single shot get the necessary part in focus enough? Or do you need to go for a bracket to get this in focus? That is another question that we always ask ourselves while we are out in the field trying to get the desired shot. And they both have their pros and cons. And if you struggle to know if you should always go for a single shot or maybe a bracket, I have a video in the channel that explains this in detail, so you can check that out. I'm going to link it up. Now the thing is, if you are doing a single shot, are you going to get the necessary part or the right amount of the necessary parts in focus? That is one thing that is easy to, should I say, make a mistake if you are going for a single shot in macro photography. But on the other hand, while going for a focus bracket, it's very easy to over bracket. What I mean by over bracket is simply overshooting and bringing so much into focus that it becomes distracting to the viewer and kind of makes the image flat, because by the time you have so much in focus, the image begins to look flat and lacks depth. And for any viewer, it can be confusing to know where to look at, or kind of just makes the image become less appealing, because let's be honest, 3D is better than 2D. So it's simply the same thing. Even though we are not experiencing that subject in real life when we are looking at an image, through depth we are able to tell what that subject really is like, more than if it were like flat. Thus the 3D and 2D comparison. And I also have a video that covers focus bracketing and over bracketing, so you can see the difference it makes and just how it influences your photos. So do well to check it out as well if this is something that confuses you as well. In macro wildlife photography, focus contributes 15% of what makes the image good. The subject 25%, lighting 20%, and focus now at 15%. You have 60% in total by just nailing three things, and 60% is I think it's beyond fair. It's probably good in lots of cases. So 60%, wow, that's great. To summarize this, I have to say that focus is not just bringing something into detail. It's about knowing the exact part of a subject to bring into detail, and also how much of that part of the subject to bring into detail. And when you nail this, you get your 15% free. And add it to whatever you've already had, and boom, you are closing in on getting a very, very good macro image. I'm David Joseph at ABCD David, macro wildlife photographer based in Nigeria. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like the series, do consider subscribing, and so you don't miss the next part of this series, still consider subscribing. And if you want to support the channel, still consider subscribing. But if you don't want to subscribe, you could still support the channel by donating a coffee. Thank you so much. Bye.